Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the PK Clan Tournament 4 Grand Finals. Today we have game number 4 in the Best of 11 series between Garja and Boneng, who of course are both competing for that very significant cash prize split, the first and second place splits in the $1,950 cash prize pool. So, Garja here in the south of the map today in the colour red, playing as the Aztecs for the first time in this set. And the first thing he's going to do, of course, is, well, actually, he's building this fire pit, and he sent this explorer, well, not the explorer, but the warrior priest that Aztec begin with, just down to the bottom here, just going to search for any treasures that might be lurking down the bottom, and he's found, of course, 90 food. His explorer, all the way over here, actually converting an outlaw pistolero, the only guardian that guards the Blackfoot Scout on the Asian dynasties, and, of course, this is a very, very strong guardian to collect. You'll always want to get the stronger guardian, since, of course, all native civilizations can convert guardians, and why would you get the weaker ones if you can get the, of course, stronger ones? And this has a very large ranged attack of 40 damage, and has 162 hit points, though bearing in mind that is less hit points than the Guardian originally had. If you convert it, they do go down, but still, the fact you can actually convert Guardians is phenomenal, whereas, of course, a European civilization can only kill them. But that Scout, of course, down the bottom here, looking for herds, hunts, koi mines, whatever you like. Wasn't going to go very far away from his base because he has the fire pits. Of course, he wants to get that guy to do the Gangnam style over the fire pit to generate him either XP or do the fertility dance. Though he is doing the experience dance, which is probably the better dance, since, of course, 1 experience point per second is almost comparable to a trading post. Just slightly under that which a trading post would generate you. It's basically a 100 wood trading post that Aztec start the game with, and it's really, really good that they can get that, since, of course, you have that up before your first shipment has even arrived. I mean, as you can see, 3 settlers now on the way. Of course, you can get that a lot sooner rather than later, and it's going to help your economy out. But bringing the Explorer back, of course, to get that 90 food, going to help him age up even quicker, and Aztec is one of those civilizations that already age up outrageously quickly due to the age up fast option that all native civilizations have, though he can only use it once, and if used in the colonial age, then it cannot be used for any other age. Forgive me, I will have to turn the graphic settings down. I always start with them on, just to entice people who have never seen my videos before into thinking that we actually do good graphics when I do commentary, but unfortunately it does slow the game, the recorded game playback down, and that is by no fault of my computer. It just seems to be a strange phenomenon that I have tested time and time again to fix. We'll switch over, though, to the other player, who is Boneng, in the north of the map, building a wall in the Discovery Age. What on earth is going on here? He's not clicked up, and normally you would not invest any wood into a wall because it does not give you any economic gain at all, and the only wood you would spend in the colonial age, sorry, the Discovery Age, is on manors. Of course, playing as the British here in the north of the map. The colour blue, of course, as you can clearly see, unless, of course, you might have some sort of colour blindness, though I hope that isn't the case. Either way, take my word for it, he is playing as the colour blue, and you'd only ever spend wood on a house or perhaps a market, and therefore the hunting dogs upgrade, because those give you, of course, as British, a free settler, or you can get that 10% bonus to hunting. And a wall is questionable, really, because ideally, if you're going to go for a wall, it's fine. This map is, like, if we take a look at the map on New England, of course, we have the water and, of course, the players. Both civilizations here can take the water, and, of course, I agree with Garja's choice of civilization, more so in, of course, Game 2, where he took Germans on Saguenay. But here, taking Aztec, which is a very, very good civilization on the water. But it has the water, that's the thing. But there's this choke point in between the ocean and this blob of water in the middle of a lake. And building a wall across this choke point is very, very viable, and, of course, an option that you can take when playing as, well, any civilization, but British, of course, are a defensive one. It is a very, very expensive wall, though, by the looks of it, being absolutely sure to cover the entire of it. And, of course, you don't normally always build the wall fully, because, really, it's only often very expensive, and, of course, you would, as British, much, much prefer to be spending that on manors. Easily 150 wood this wall so far, because of course each segment is, well, 5, and he's building more up here as well, as you can see. So perhaps 150, 300 wood, somewhere in between that. That's 2 manors. He's going to be behind compared to another British build, but he is... Wow. He's still in the Discovery Age, and he... What the... Seriously? Okay, still in the Discovery Age. Has he picked a treaty deck or something? Still in the Discovery Age, 4 minutes 25, not collecting any food, hasn't got the age up in queue. Every settler on wood, massing a ton of houses. This is the most non-standard deck I have ever seen at the competitive level of Age of Empires 3 for a grand tournament finals. No standard cards in this almost. Just 3 settlers is, of course, his first shipment here, followed up by Virginia Company, which reduces the cost of buildings by 35%, well, the cost of houses. Investing this wall early on, clearly going for a full eco build, and he now sending exotic hardwoods, 20%. How is he going to defend off any colonial pressure? I really don't know. We'll have to take a look at what Guy is doing, but this is the perhaps most non-standard build I have ever seen, and the only person who comes close to doing something this ridiculous is Aztec, if you've heard of him. Of course, takes the current metagame and just, because you expect players to do certain things, Aztec would turn it on its head and really, really confuse you and play to that. Though, of course, if you are familiar with his strategies, then you can work around them. But Boneng here, perhaps doing something very, very odd. Of course, in the Colonial Age, doesn't have 700 or 600 wood, nor does he does have 5 settlers, though he does not have 4 settlers. Of course, 4 settlers, not all British decks will run the 4 settler shipment, but he doesn't have any of the standard booming capabilities. Because, of course, you want to race up to the Colonial Age so you can start to send that wood and then you can invest. But going for a double wall and still not even aged. Hasn't even got that age up in queue. Now sending schooners. Clearly going to go for an all-in boom approach then with the fish. Somewhat similar to the Saguenay game where he played Portuguese. But that was a somewhat viable build. This looks very, very odd. We're going to switch over to Boneng. No, Gaia. We'll switch over to Gaia and see what Gaia is up to. And, of course, by the looks of it, by the looks of things, going for a very kind of eco build with, of course, Aztec, since they are one of those civilizations that really flourish kind of mid-colonial to late colonial, because things of such as sent the 700 wood shipment, has a decent amount of wood at the moment, and of course is a very economic shipment to send. Going to get some market upgrades there, and we'll talk about exactly what you might spend that wood on. Then sent, by the looks of it, 3 warrior priests, which are already dancing at that pit, generating a huge amount of experience points, and really each warrior priest is generating 1 experience point per second at the moment, since there are, of course, 4 warrior priests, and he's generating 4 experience point per second, and that really is quite a lot of experience points, and that's going to contribute towards some really, really nice shipments that Aztec have access to, things such as like 3 trading post travelers, which I guess is comparable to 600 wood since they are 200 each, but you get them up very, very quickly, enables you to take the trade route very, very nicely, and things like 10 Mace Holton, 9 Mace Holton, very efficient shipments as well. Going for a very, very strong eco, but already has his next shipment, and those 3 travelers have only just arrived. We'll see what it is. 5 settlers. Wow, very, very eco indeed. And Boneng is still in the discovery age. We'll switch over to Boneng, and by the looks of it, now collecting food, almost has all of the food he needs. But has Gaia even noticed that Boneng is still in the discovery age? Because honestly, Gaia is going very, very heavy eco himself, and you know, you're definitely not going to outboom a British player, especially with this going on. So perhaps Gaia hasn't noticed that Boneng is still in the discovery age, because if he had, then I certainly think he would have put on some pressure. Taking, you know, the only damage that's really being done is just a little bit of siege onto this wall here with the Explorer, which by no means has very much siege attack, and starting to siege down, of course, this trading post with the 5 coyotes he trained. Those coyotes really not going to be very effective at raiding at all. They are kind of like the cavalry style unit. They move quite quickly and have they kind of function similar to cavalry for, of course, Aztec, but they're not going to be able to raid because the full wall is up. And that is that. But I think very, very odd play from Boneng here, but especially that trading post in Age 1 as well. Well, not really especially, but just generally a trading post as well is, of course, better, perhaps a better investment for building a manor and you get the free settler. But then, who am I to say? Of course, Boneng is the player competing in the PK Clan Tournament 4th Grand Finals and is, of course, the expert player. But really, really odd. Huge amount of settlers. Has, by the looks of it, all 20 manors. But yes, we'll switch over to Gaia and talk about what, of course, these shipments are up for. The 700 wood looks like, of course, using this, well, we'll turn the Fog of War, and he scouted these 2 with, of course, the wolf, which is now dead there, which he managed to convert. And he clearly knows Boneng's trying to take the water. And if we just take a look at this map here, you can see that Boneng doesn't have that many hunts. He has a few hunts, right? He's got his berries as well, but his hunts are running out, and we compare that to, of course, Gaia, who has the entire map in theory. Of course, since British is just walling up, and by the looks of it, trying to take water for, of course, the food. Gaia says to himself, all right, just easy game. I just boom up, and I pressure in at kind of like that optimal kind of critical mass where Aztec really flourish kind of in the mid-game, and then all he needs to do is control the map, and then I have the hunts, and I'll take the water. And of course, training canoes now, very strong unit. We saw that in the German versus Portuguese game as well, where of course the canoes can be just used to then run in, raid these, and control the water as well. Just keep him to 4 docks. Wow, I guess it makes sense with the amount of booming he's done. Of course, he has all 20 manners in age 1, I would assume. But I think any kind of colonial pressure at all, and I really think Boneng would have struggled, and perhaps Gaia perhaps didn't notice. I cannot be sure. But there's that. Adding in a wall himself now just to kind of cut off this choke point here and make sure there's no funny business with any raiding perhaps coming through this side, since of course the war hut is down here. But these canoes now coming out, going to attempt to control the water and really stop Boneng from taking the water, taking the food there. And once this food runs out, really kind of what can British do? Of course, though, the outposts are going to be able to control this section because, well, I've always said this, but in Age of Empires 2, if you lose the water, it's very hard to get it back. But in Age of Empires 3, you can control sections of the water, and this is because outposts have a very, very big anti-ship damage, and the only real access that the Boneng is going to have to the water is just this small section, since, of course, these boats here are going to stop. But very heavy eco build, and is he starting to add in military units? He is, by the looks of it, perhaps going to go up to Fortress, not training any units just now. Wants to go up to Fortress, has, of course, all of the trading route, and then perhaps wants to build a Noble's Hut and add in Arrow Knights, which, of course, are, since Aztec do not get artillery units, they can use the Arrow Knights as they are very, very big siege units that have that nice siege damage on them and have bonuses against other artillery units, and can start to tear through the wall and the outposts and really push in them. Now coming in, of course, with the canoes again, forcing those fishing boats back into, of course, the town, into the docks, so that they cannot fish. Though he doesn't want to get too close, since, of course, anything garrisoned in these docks gives the dock a ranged attack. But, yeah, now going up to Fortress with the Shaman, and I'm a little bit unsure about what that kind of bonus is. 4 caravels just pop out for Boneng here, of course. Wow, of course, well, you can only have 5 caravels, and these are really going to help him defend against the water here. 4 caravels will not be a match for just the small amount of canoes here. Gaia is going to have to, of course, build a few more canoes. And I think at this point in the game, since no colonial pressure was added in, and since, I mean, if Gaia had perhaps realised that this was going on, then he could have made a build to appropriately deal with the British. And I think it would be very easy to deal with it. And I think it is just that meta game that currently you would not ever expect anyone to do a build like this. Those canoes, by the way, aren't dead. They're now inside, I would believe, yeah, he's now going to start to build them up again. And these caravels won't want to get very close to, because the dock has a ranged attack now that deals with the caravels very efficiently, and also the war hut. Yeah, now adding in a nobles, another war hut going up. So 2 war huts for a little bit more defense. Of course, the war hut has a very similar to an outpost, that huge anti-ship damage. Now, of course, investing on the water to deal with these caravels, going with the water dance, which your villagers learn a new water dance to boost boats in combat, and he's also got offshore support, which increases the range of war boats by 5, and also increases their action damages by 20%. As I was saying, though, I do think it is this kind of meta game that Boneng's playing on, since you'd never ever expect somebody to do, you'd never expect someone to just build all 20 manors and get all of the settlers out, and because of that, especially since it's a tournament grand final, he's just playing on it, and it looks like he's gotten away with it, since it's just so unexpected that someone would do that. Similar to, I guess, Azamk in a way, that you can do things that normally be quite easily countered, but, or actually at that, Azamk strategies are still quite hard to counter. But the point is, you can do these unexpected things and get away with it because people don't normally expect that, but overall these kind of strategies are perhaps not quite as strong as perhaps some of the more standard things, but as I say again, because you don't expect it, you really might get away with it. I think, though, at this point in the game, it looks like it's getting a little bit too late for Gaia to bring this back, due to the fact that the British was just allowed to do that boom. Of course, we'll switch over. Gaia actually starting to just mass up more warrior priests, and then once all of the warrior priests are up, 10 warrior priests, I believe, is the maximum, and that's a huge amount you can have dancing. You get the absolutely crazy fertility dance, which increases train rates by like 100% or over, or something ridiculous like that. And you could spam fishing ships onto the water and just take the water really quickly, or get all 99 settlers out. But I think it is a little bit too late. I don't know. We'll switch over to Boneng, see what's going on. Of course, I might have missed a little bit of the action, but I think these warboats have just popped out. Of course, all of those upgrades for Gaia now. Going to try and take the water, and I see that Boneng is setting some settlers over to the island here to put up some outposts and try and capture the water to help him push out so that he can claim more of the fish on the other side, since, of course, these outposts have that really big anti-ship damage. But Gaia noticing, popping the canoes out and, of course, using their ranged attack to bring these down. But I don't think Gaia has noticed, well, you can see that it's in his line of sight, but whether or not he's noticed it on is a different story. But that outpost, of course, did go down quite easily to just all of the canoes focusing it down. 4 caravels are actually 5. Anyway, I'll switch over to Boneng, who is now up to the Fortress Age. These coyotes starting to siege down the wall, but it's really not going to mean that much. And now, just going up to the Industrial Age. He has 2 stables that he's added in, but I do not believe he's trained a single military unit all game. And I think the fact that he's been allowed to just sit behind his wall with so many settlers is just, that's the thing here. And we see now Gaia doing the same hit and putting up a war hut on the island and going to focus this one down with, of course, these warboats, which have been upgraded. I believe he's doing the water dance and has a significant amount of units on there to do the water dance. And, of course, offshore support, which is apparently now only just being... Oh, no, this is Boneng. Yeah, sorry, we're looking at the wrong deck there, my mistake. But, of course, yeah, now Boneng adding in the offshore support upgrade. Of course, he wants his caravels to be more efficient in combat. And I imagine, switch over to Boneng and see what he's up to. Yeah, got a frigate in queue here and could easily just train more of them. And that is the issue, to of course, protect his fishing operation and expand it. But does the fishing really matter now? His economy on the land is so far ahead. Now adding in Dragoons. As I keep trying to say, though, I mean, at the scores aren't that bad. I mean, Boneng is ahead, but I think, and Gaia's not that far behind, but since Boneng has been allowed to just boom like this, I think it's, I'm sorry to say it, and there is still a significant portion of the game left, but I think he's really got this one in the bag, because there's really not, like, a British economy this strong, now up to industrial, can easily get those upgrades, those guard upgrades, and just outpower his opponent. We will see how it turns out, though, and of course, now, Gaia not going to give up, though. Of course, going to start adding in Arrow Knights. Of course, has now built a Noble's Hut and has trained a significant amount of these 10 Arrow Knights, which, of course, cost 50 coin, 50 food and 75 coin, and have a fairly decent, of course, their siege attack, 36 with a ×2 multiplier against boats, and they are ranged attack of 10, which has a ×5 multiplier against artillery. So you can see this is the kind of artillery style unit, or replacement unit, perhaps, for Aztec, and he's going to use this to kind of tear down these outposts, perhaps go through the wall, and then he can bring in his boats to kind of, his canoes, ship the Tlak canoes as well. Very, very strong unit, 317 siege attack on those, and these are of course going to be added in with the other canoes, and perhaps to destroy the fishing operation. But we'll switch over to Boneng and see how he's going to respond to all of this. He has, of course, 1 frigate, 4 caravels, and at the moment, with regards to his military, now collecting up that coin, of course. So far, shipment-wise, 3 settlers, followed by Virginia Company, followed by exotic hardwoods, I believe, followed by schooners, followed by 5 settlers, and he's also got the rendering plant, which is 30% of fishing boats, and then the boats upgrade. So just, wow, all of these very, very strange, of course, shipments, but it seems appropriate for the build that he's done, and he's getting away with it. Now, this is an interesting kind of fight. The units that I guess Boneng is training, he's just going for straight-up Dragoons. And now adding in a few hussars, which of course are very effective against Arrow Knights. But this fight is an interesting one, because Arrow Knights absorb 40% of range damage, whereas a Dragoon actually absorbs 30, and they do actually have, well, the Arrow Knight has 150 hit points, and the, of course, Dragoon has 240, so it's fairly similar hit points with regards to the amount that these units cost. I think, of course, the Dragoons are actually a little bit more efficient, but these Arrow Knights only do 10 damage at range. They have 10 range damage, whereas Dragoons do 26. And it's interesting that their siege attack does, of course, siege damage, and their ranged attack, if their ranged attack did siege damage, then it would negate the resist, but that is not the case. So neither of these units are very effective at attacking each other, but I do think Boneng's units are slightly better. Now, these Mace Halton have arrived, of course, as a shipment by the looks of it, and now I do not think Boneng want to fight there for the time being, since Mace Halton are essentially the the light infantry or ranged infantry unit for, of course, the Aztecs, with 10 damage multiplied by 2 versus ranged cavalry. So they are kind of the hard counter there, so he's not going to, of course, hang around and fight. wow, that is a huge amount of frigates. Switching over to Boneng just to briefly see what's up here. 3 frigates, all 3 frigates, plus the Monitor, which he's now going to use his the special bombard attack to just eliminate that war hut on the island here, just to so that he can push out. And this thing is going to just reap havoc on any building, because that support that they can provide is absolutely crazy. Some Hussars coming out, of course, not upgraded, but going for the Veteran Hussar upgrade, and no doubt he might follow up with, of course, the Guard upgrade. But these are easily going to tear through those Arrow Knights if he can find them, and of course the Mace Halton as well, just doing a bit of raiding on the side here. Now these Dragoons coming in, I don't think they're going to want to face the Mace Halton, and that's why the Mace Halton have come this way to kind of track down the Dragoons. But these are coming in, of course, to perhaps do some raiding. Coming over to this side, there's some Settlers here. They're not going to be that effective at killing the Settlers, but since, of course, they have a 26 damage, but it's halved times 0.5. But really going to still be a nuisance for, of course, but guys, economy, bringing in the Mace Halton to defend here. Down in the bottom of the map, though, these Hussars coming in really to just perform even more damage. There we see the Elite Eagle Runner, the Dragoon-type unit, I suppose, for, of course, Aztec, which are quite effective against these Hussars, but Hussars should be able to bring them down, since you can't hit and run very effectively with Eagle Runners, and if there's nothing supporting the Eagle Runners, such as, you know, to keep... Since they, you know, they can't escape and run away, such as in the same way as perhaps a Dragoon, they're going to go down. And it was not that cost efficient for Boneng, but it's still, you know, he can still do this. As you can see, those Eagle Runners actually performing very well. And if there were more Hussars, then, well, fair enough. But on the water here now, we see, of course, the canoes coming in, and really they are no match for, of course, the 3 frigates and the caravels. And the only reason that this has happened is because Boneng was just allowed to boom on the water for so long. Gaia has called the end of the game there, and I'm just going to quickly compare their economy. 74 settlers. We'll take a look at the post-game all resources gathered as well, but 74 settlers for Boneng, and Gaia on 62. Take a look at all resources gathered then. And as you can see, Gaia is ahead early game. Of course, at this point, you can, if perhaps he did go a little bit heavy on the economy, but if he pushed in, added some colonial pressure, he might have done a lot better than he did, but he kind of left it a bit late, I think, and perhaps if he'd realised, or I assume that he didn't realise what Boneng was actually up to, then he could have just done a really, really appropriate build, some sort of rush, some sort of colonial-based pressure, and that would have just, Boneng would have just crumbled. But that was a really risky move from Boneng, but it paid off in the end, and as you can see, just massively outboomed on 36,000 resources. Look at the villager count there, just shooting up so quickly as he reaches the colonial age, and all of the, of course, manors are finished being constructed. But that gap that increases here, absolutely amazing. Really, really odd game, but congratulations to Boneng doing something very, very strange. And that concludes game number 4. So thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time for, of course, game number 5 in this Best of 11 series.